You are watching The Breakdown, Volume 2. I'm Norman James, along with Brent Lail and Merrick Sutherland. Guys, we're approaching early September, so a lot of sports starting up. But the front runners, of course, the Western Mustangs up against Laurier on Wednesday. Here's the thing about the Stangs. Supposed to be good again in the OUA. However, missing the best quarterback of all time and last year's best running back in Nathan Riva, an injured hamstring. I don't know if the Western Mustangs are going to be that good. They're missing key players, and I think it could be a trying season for them.
Well, I think at the start of the season, when they found out that Donnie Marshall was going to be the quarterback after Michael Falls left, I think a lot of people predicted 6-2, maybe 5-3, just because it's so much of a drop-off from what they had at quarterback. And then Nathan Riva goes down with a torn hamstring. Add that to the fold with the inexperience at quarterback, and I think it's going to be a lot depending on the defense right now. If the defense can, keep teams under 15 points a game, then I think this Mustangs team has a great shot. But they open with 4 of the best teams in the province, week 1, 2, 3, and 4, so we're going to find out pretty quick.
Well, and I think for what they lost in Falls, they're gaining in Van Prade, because, I mean, he is a national defensive lineman, and he is going to be top of the class. And that linebackers, as we showed you last week, that linebacker crew is incredible. So, I mean, it's not unheard of that the Stangs defense could hold them up.
Nathan Riva acquired a lot of yards for this squad last year. Who is going to pick up those yards this time around? That is the question that is out there. We might not know who the successor to Nathan Riva is until week 2 or 3, and by then the Stangs could be 0-2.
I think they've got 4 guys right now that are going to combine to be one Nathan Riva. You've got Kenny Enser, who's kind of the guy who can cut in and out. Ben Roberts is a great pass catcher out the backfield. Jeremy Hipperson can pound it up the middle. And then you've got John Leckie for the goal line carry. So I think it's going to take basically 4 people to make up for one Nathan Riva who they've lost.
Well, and I think you also have to consider that you're only as good as your offensive line, especially with the running game. And, if that offensive line is as good as the Mustangs say they are, then they're going to have some pretty big holes, and I think I could probably run through a few of them if they're that good.
Donnie Marshall under center, Brent, to start the season. The kid is crafty. He has a lot of talent, learned from one of the best in Michael Falls, but we really don't know what he has to bring on the OUA stage until Wednesday and beyond that. He's got the Marshall pedigree, Merrick, but is he going to be good? He's not the biggest kid. He doesn't have the greatest arm. What do you expect from him?
Well, I mean, everyone knocks his size, right? But, I mean, I said this a few months back. I remember another number 7 who always had his size knocked, and that was Doug Flutie. If they change the offense, gear it towards what is strong about Donnie Marshall, then it shouldn't be that much of a bit.
And that's exactly what they are going to do.
So is it going to be Donnie Marshall for the bulk of the season? If he falters, will they go to someone else?
Well, Ian Noble is there. He's been in the OUA for 3-4 years now. He's got some experience playing with the Laurier Golden Hawks, who have been a perennial powerhouse in this OUA. So there is another option there, but I think it's going to be Donnie, because I think this team will be okay with Marshall under center.
The Waterloo Warriors nowhere to be found when it comes to this year's OUA football season, so things are starting earlier. The big game Wednesday, Stangs versus the Laurier Golden Hawks at TD Waterhouse Stadium. Looking forward to it, guys. The Blue Jays, one of the most exciting teams in the major leagues, bar none, in 2010. One of the most exciting pitchers in the game right now, Brandon Morrow. We're only going to see him for one more start because the Jays are shutting this electrifying hurler down. Brent, do you agree with this decision?
Well, the baseball rule of thumb is you only allow your pitcher to throw 30 innings more than he threw the previous season. The only issue with that is Morrow spent a lot of time in the bullpen and as a starter, so his innings are kind of skewed. But I think almost they have to do this. They did it last year with Mark Zipchinski and Brett Cecil in September. These guys are young, they're powerful, can throw fire. These guys have to be there going forward when the team wants to win in 2011 and 2012. It's unfortunate because he is such a hot commodity, and he probably pitched the best baseball game other than maybe Roy Halladay's perfect game. That 17 strikeout game was unbelievable, and it's unfortunate that the fans will lose Brandon Morrow for all but one more start, but it's looking forward.
I don't think the fans are going to care. I mean, the team's not going to make the playoffs this year. What's the point of keeping him in there? Rest him. You don't want to have another Steven Strasburg incident on your club, especially when, arms are a premium.
This is a team, though, that needs to put butts in seats. And when Brandon Morrow is pitching at Rogers Center, you know extra people are going to show up because he had the one-hitter, 174 strikeouts, fourth in the American League, 143 and the third innings pitched. He is developing faster than I think the Blue Jays thought. However, this is a commodity. This is a showtime kind of guy that can get people out to the ballpark. And the fact he's going to miss 6 or 7 starts down the stretch, I think that could hurt the Blue Jays.
I definitely think so as well, especially if you have to bring up a Brad Mills or somebody from AAA who, you know, they have some depth in AAA, but it's not the guy who, like Morrow, who is an ace essentially of this staff now. And I've talked to some people who say Morrow is now their favorite pitcher already. Like he's only kind of just come onto the scene, but he's now, with how many great outings he's had, is now the favorite pitcher on the staff, and they're not going to be able to see him other than one more start.
I agree with you that it's going to hurt the team in the short term. However, I don't think they really care about the short term right now. If Morrow stays healthy and, you know, the Jays are successful next year or the year after, fans are going to put their butts in the seats, and that's what's going to matter.
This guy has absolutely nasty stuff, a la Randy Johnson and Nolan Ryan. Last thing, guys, Couture versus Tony. You know, the UFC has worked so hard to gain credibility over the last several years. I think this Couture versus Tony fight, all this does, hurts the reputation of UFC. You've got a 47-year-old Ultimate Fighter who should be on a beach somewhere, and a 42, 43-year-old boxer who is just huge and doesn't even belong anywhere near any kind of athletic realm. Yet the two fight in Boston. I think the fans need their money back because I think it was a bit of a joke.
I got to watch it, and I got to say that, you know, I mean, Tony didn't have a chance from the beginning, and I said this all last week. But the thing is that this is a guy who badmouthed that sport for you know, a year. Followed Dana White around, and that's how the story goes anyway, is that he followed Dana White around, told him that UFC was a joke. This isn't like a hockey player going to play baseball. This is a fighter saying that his fighting sport is better than the other.
So it's all about bravado then?
Well, pretty much. If somebody, you know, is picking on you for a year, you've got to turn around and say, all right.
Well, I think I could play for the New York Yankees. Why don't they sign me up? That's my only thing, is my only issue with, or one of my issues with UFC. This is supposed to be a major sport. If someone wants to become involved in it and they're bad-mouthing it, so what? This should be all about excellence. And to bring a guy like James Toney into the mix, who shouldn't even be serving burgers. No disrespect to you burger servers out there. You know, I think it hurts the credibility of the sport. We'll see what happens at the next UFC because I guess the business rolls on, right?
It will, and I don't think you'll see this in a long time. If this was a Manny Pacquiao versus a George St. Pierre or you know, Floyd Mayweather versus Anderson Silva, it's a different story. Right, but I mean, it is a fight league versus a fight league, and that's what it is.
It is what it is. It's over. We'll see what happens next. How about Sutherland versus Lale? Yay or nay on the James Toney? We got to go.
I think Tony. I think it was a joke, but I also think that he was. I think some people actually maybe thought that he could win that if he caught him with a right hand, which absolutely kind of drew some people into the card. But then now they realize, wait a minute, that was not correct.
I still say anybody who went to UFC 118 deserves their money back, but they will never get it because Dana White's getting half of it. Thanks, guys. Catch the breakdown every week. Tell your friends. We'll see you in 7 days' time.